Hey, what's up guys? So I've just been watching episode 1 of season 2 of Loki. I'm just going to give you my first impressions. It's really late here in France, it's 11 p.m, so if I look tired it's because I am. Okay, so obviously I watched the recap even though I don't really need a recap. I've seen the show I don't know how many times, the first season. But for some reason I felt in some places that the dialogues were not the original dialogues. I'm not sure. Am I crazy? Maybe my memory is just not as good as I thought. But there were a few moments when I felt they changed a few words or redubbed something. I don't know. It may just be that I'm going a bit crazy. I don't know. Okay, so I really loved the fact that they were starting right in the middle of the action like this, and I still saw some critics saying it was too slow, and really I'm like, what? There was a bit of dialogue later on, but it starts really, really fast. Okay, that was funny. I was so happy to see him. And I did not expect that to happen in the first episode. There were quite a lot of scenes actually that I did not expect to see in the first episode. I had seen the trailer obviously, and there was this scene with the car crashing into a window. But there were other scenes as well. Just let me find them. Like this one, for example. You know, that scene with, you know, the whole team entering this big room with a blinding white light. It really looks like the climax of the series. You know, you could think they're about to face some big villain, and actually it's just in the first episode, so I thought that was a surprise. It was cool. And also that one, the scene of Mobius going out in the time suit, I guess it should be called. I did not expect this to happen so soon. It has a very apocalyptic vibe to it, and I thought it would come later. So it also shows that there were some big scenes in this first episode, so it's not slow, it's kind of action-packed actually. So now to go back to the beginning and take things in order. I love how Tom Hiddleston can never get a break. Like, he just can't catch a break. You see, in the first season, the first episode was super intense. There was crying and he was falling on his bum, and now first episode of season 2, he's just constantly in a panic. He's terrified and he gets kind of pulled through time and turned into like time spaghetti or something. It's just exhausting probably, and well, you know, he's got a lot of dedication and energy, this man. That's a great still, I'm gonna keep it. One thing I really liked about how they got to explore the TVA at various stages in its history is that I really loved in the first season the design of the TVA. It was amazing, the sets were amazing, the colors, the attention to detail, and all these props that kind of look at the same time very futuristic and kind of outdated, a bit vintage. It's really great. Like in this TVA, the monitor is this big orange ball. It's really cool. And I was thinking it must be a designer's dream to do this, because, you know, if you've seen the great book that's behind me, the art book for season 1, you see all these great designs that they drew, and it must be so frustrating for them because every time they draw I don't know how many designs, and they have to give up all of them except one very often. So it's kind of, you know, a designer's dream. They get to have their cake and eat it in a way. They can try out all those designs, and I think that's really cool. I love that. I love that. It's just the same type of thing that I loved in the first season. It's very efficient storytelling. You know, the same thing as the drawer full of infinity stones. It was such an efficient way of kind of conveying meaning. And here it's the same thing. And it's really funny, but I like the fact that they solved this great mystery of why did Loki at the end of season 1 arrive in a TVA that had Kang everywhere, and with Mobius and B-15 who did not remember him. And we had so many far-fetched theories about this, and everyone was asking, but that makes no sense. The TVA is supposed to be out of this system. They are supposed to be kind of, maybe not out of time, but not subject to the rewriting of time, so how could it happen? And actually it's pretty simple. It was the past TVA and that's it. So I like that it's a simple explanation. I like that they're conveying it in such a simple way as well, this revelation, and I like the way that they explain this in the very first episode. They didn't try to lead us on, they're just answering the question right away. And again, it shows that Loki is clever because he figures this out very quickly, even though he's still very, we can see he's emotionally not very comfortable. He's in complete turmoil, both physically and emotionally, and yet he figures this out. He puts two and two together very quickly, and that's yet another example that, contrary to what I've often seen people say online, the series does not portray Loki as stupid. It does not. It's just not the case. If you look at season 1, there is this moment when he figures out very quickly the whole apocalypse theory, the fact that Sylvie hides in apocalypses, and that's something that all these TVA workers with all their power had been unable to figure out for we don't even know how long. So he's clever, and sometimes he just clicks and he understands things that no one else seems to understand. And also another thing I'm happy about is that I really hated the idea that there would be a TVA in which Loki and Mobius and B-15 and the others had never met. That seemed like a bummer. We didn't want to see that. So I'm very glad that this isn't what happens. So that was another thing that really surprised me. I had read about this theory that Dickie was going to be Sylvie, an older version of Sylvie, maybe an evil version of Sylvie. And I really believed that theory because she looks so much like, what an older Sylvie could look like. And yeah, I'm a bit disappointed that she's actually just another character apparently, but I don't know. She has a very strong Scottish accent, which does not seem to match Sylvie. But in this series, things are so crazy, you never know what might happen. Maybe they will find a way to explain that actually she's another Sylvie, that is putting on a fake Scottish accent for some reason. I don't know. I'm probably a bit desperate to cling to this theory because I liked it, but I'm probably gonna have to give up on it. Although, in that scene, she seemed very, very interested in getting Sylvie. She seemed hell-bent on going after Sylvie, and I don't know, it's a bit shady. Maybe I'm just desperate to believe that she is somehow Sylvie in another life, but I don't know. It was a bit shady the way she was determined to go after her.
It's actually a brand, same way Kleenex is.
That was funny.
I don't care.
So General Dox and Judge Gamble would like to see you.
Those names, General Dox and Judge Gamble. I don't know where they got those names, but they're like the most TVA names ever. So I don't know what they do. Like General Dox, what's her thing? Does she threaten people with publishing their details? Because she has access to all of them, presumably, in the TVA, I guess. They all have these huge files with everything, like what you ate for breakfast and whatnot. And Gamble, well, she does take a gamble, so she's aptly named. She later decides to just not prune the timelines anymore, so I guess the name is fitting. I really like that because it really reminds us that even though we don't see Sylvie much, Loki is still very much thinking only about her. He just wants to go back to her, and he's like, what does she want to do to Sylvie? So he's in full protective mode in spite of what happened, so it's pretty obvious that he still cares very much.
I'd ask who won, but it's a draw.
I like that they brought up this who's the superior Loki thing again. It was funny. Okay, so I really loved that scene, and I kind of regretted that they revealed the scene before the episode because it was one of the funniest scenes. That moment when Mobius confesses that it looks horrible when he time slips, and then the face of that TVA worker. And the OB scene was everything I hoped it would be and more. It was amazing. He's just adorable, he's funny. I love that moment when Loki was taking the piss out of Mobius because Mobius obviously could not remember who Obi was and was pretending, and he was like, oh yeah, you remember, right? And That was really hilarious. And also the whole superimposition of the past and future scenes with the dialogue that seemed to continue, that was really, really good. And the accessories, all the props there are just... I don't even know how long it took them to create all this stuff. It must have been really, really long.
What? And I told you it was around 4? Wait, that's right. Yes, because then I stayed for a little bit. He took me over. He left immediately.
How sad must it be that Obi, you know, he's got no life, to the extent that this kind of interaction is something he remembers for several hundred years. Just goes to show how little interaction he actually gets. But it's interesting also to see that he's the memory of the TVA, I guess, because he seems to be so forgotten by everyone that they don't even think of wiping his memory. Or maybe they need him to keep his memory because he's the repair guy, so probably not someone whose memory you want to wipe. He would probably lose some of his skills, I guess, if you did that.
They're constructed to weave together so many new branches, so it's overloading.
Okay, so I thought that was really interesting. They're continuing on this same line of thought that the sacred timeline is not just one branch, just one timeline with one story. Some people were still claiming that it was, but this seems to support the theory that they tolerate multiple stories, but they weave them into a kind of neat timeline where they just eliminate, prune whatever they don't want. And so this makes it even more obvious, even though I'm not sure exactly what he means by raw time. Does he just mean chaotic timelines that are not actually monitored properly? I don't know. I really like that little head bump. Mobius does not want to lose his skin, and I understand that because, you know, people are laughing at him as if he's being a bit of a baby, but honestly it must be awful. Again, I thought that was beautiful because it shows how much Mobius cares. He was so terrified of the consequences of staying out there, losing his skin and so on, and yet he actually takes that risk, and so he does not want to lose Loki. So that's another brilliant way of communicating that. Okay, and that scene, so the first reunion between Loki and Sylvie, so it was beautiful, and it was, well, you can see how moved he is. It's also interesting to see how unfazed she seems to find him, so I guess it suggests that this Sylvie has not left her Loki for very long, since she's just like, oh, there you are. Does not seem so surprised or moved, whereas he's clearly very, very emotional. But also another thing that I thought was interesting in that scene, I wonder, maybe I'm just imagining things again, but this really reminded me of The Walking Dead. Like there are two things that reminded me of The Walking Dead. The first one is this phone that's ringing. So I know it's kind of a cliche, it's probably not the first and the last scene with a phone ringing like this, but there is that scene in The Walking Dead where Rick hears the phone. And also the hands like this trying to pry the lift open. It was very much like The Walking Dead at first. This thing here, she's almost like zombie Sylvie. And even that scene with the flashing lights and the long corridor, it really reminds me of the first episode of The Walking Dead. So I don't know, maybe I'm just making things up, but... And I knew right away that it was Sylvie. I don't know if you felt the same, but as soon as I saw the hands, I was like, that's Sylvie. And so there was a post-credit scene. I guess everyone will have waited for that. And oh my god, do they not care at all about hair continuity, because, you know, Loki has visibly shorter hair and they just continue from the previous scene as if nothing happened. Same as they did in the first episode of season 1, where he went directly from the Avengers to the desert and his hair was completely different. And Sylvie's hair, I mean, the wig is not terrible, but it does not look like her hair. in episode 6 of season 1. So I guess it's difficult to find a wig that's exactly the same, but it really doesn't look great. The other wig that she's wearing in the trailer, on the other hand, looks pretty good. So just in case you don't know, Sofia Di Martino cut her hair between season 1 and 2, so when they needed to reproduce this look from season 1, they had to give her a wig. There was no other option.
Not squirrel, not possum, not rats. Something that's already dead and nothing with a face.
That was a brilliant piece of dialogue. And the little please at the end. Okay, I loved this because it's absolutely not what we all expected, I think. Most of us expected her to be crushed after killing He Who Remains, so of course we don't know if this is the direct... well, I suppose it is. I suppose we're meant to believe that she's coming right off of this previous scene when she killed him. So it's really interesting because instead of being crushed and regretting her actions, she's actually enjoying life. And again, the fact that we saw her work at McDonald's, lots of people were basically imagining that she was depressed and she found a shitty job at McDonald's, but because we have this prejudice about this kind of job, but in fact she's living her best life. So I really like that. I like the fact that it's completely subverting my expectations, and I guess most people's expectations as well, that she's just chilling out and getting to enjoy all the stuff she never got, so getting back the life that was stolen from her. So that's really cool, and I can't wait to see more. So that's it for today, I guess. I really enjoyed this first episode. I can't say I was blown away as I was with the first episode of the first season, but we know what to expect now. I thought it was solid, it wasn't boring, it was quite efficient, there were some really funny moments. I was really happy to see Mobius and Loki together again, because their dialogues are always gold, and the acting was great, and Obi is such a great addition. It's great to see more of B-15, and there is some promise as well that we will see more of Renslayer, with this little cheeky conversation with between her and Kang. That was weird. So yeah, it was a pretty solid episode, and I'm really looking forward to the next one. And I have been trying to edit a video on variants in the MCU for I don't even know how long. I filmed it more than a year ago, and I'm thinking now that probably what's going to happen is when I finally manage to edit it, it's going to be completely obsolete. The series is probably going to bring answers to some of those questions that I was trying to think about, and maybe just completely destroy my theories. So I don't know, we'll see. Maybe I'll just wait and do that once the second season is over, if I'm a bit of a coward. I'll try to do a video like this one for every episode, and then my favorite time is once the season is over and then you have a complete work and you can actually start thinking about it much more, re-watching and creating all these theories. So I'll see you next week. Bye bye.